Slow down here. But I'm not just telling you something that I didn't live by. Before I ever started pastoring, there were times I would go to church, and if you've never been to a service like this, then bless your heart, you don't know what I'm talking about. But we had good church. We had a very good church, a good singing, good music, a lot of great stuff. But there were services where we would go in, and it was almost like everybody had ate some kind of sleepy pill, and nobody really wanted to have church. It was kind of dry, and people were tired, and we drug through the service. And then when my pastor got up to preach, I could tell, because I preach, I could sense he was fighting. He was struggling. You know what I'm talking about? You can sense it. You could sense that he was struggling to deliver the message and struggling with the fact that nobody was responding. And you know what I would do? My wife can tell you, I'm not telling no story here. What I would do, I think to myself, what if that was me? My appetite to have church is greater than what the church experience is. And the survivors, they will eat even whenever there is a little appetite. But I would get up on my feet and I would start saying, come on, brother, preach it, brother. Because I found as a pastor that at times having somebody in your corner, to have a Moses with somebody holding his hands up, to have somebody that is in there with you, somebody that'll fight with you, somebody that'll pray with you, sometimes that's just enough that when you're on the verge of saying, I quit, I resign the church, it might just be just enough to get that pastor to get a bulldog grip, sink his teeth in, dig his heels in the mud, and saying, devil, I ain't going nowhere. I'm hanging on right here, and I'm going to see this church through to breakthrough revival. Stand to your feet across the house of the Lord before I preach you and me both to death. Amen. I want us to be able to realize as a people that we all have a given responsibility, and that is to maintain the fire that is within us. But I have noticed that when you give your life to God, and through the course of the monotony of seeing the same things, hearing the same pastor preach on midweek and Sunday, through the monotony of doing the same things, hearing the same sister sing, that sometimes we become desensitized to what we really actually have. What do you mean? I remember being in a church, and they had some amazing singing. If this group of people that did the majority of the singing were to go to any church revival, I mean, the place would come unglued. But our church had got so accustomed to that powerful ministry. It's like a man that eats ribeye steak every day. After a while, you start becoming desensitized to what you actually have. I don't know, I just fill you in. I've got a lot of pastor friends I have conveyed with. And if you have got a pastor that loves God, he's good to you, he's good to the church, he's got a burden for God, you better hang on to him with everything you got. If you've got a church with some pillars who are trying to hang on in this ungodly generation, you better get behind them. Somebody say amen. Let me close by asking you a simple question tonight. It's an old school thought. How bad do you want it? How hungry are you? When you get up to sing, when you get up to play, do you want it to feel different? Sister, you play the piano. Have you ever had times that you got up and it felt like your fingers were on fire? You ever had those times that you walked in and the message was, it was like it had a hold of you. And you were thinking to yourself, I can't wait. Maybe I might cut that song short. I want to preach. But there are other times that you come in and you're like, oh, maybe they'll sing one more song. Somebody will shout and I won't have to preach tonight. Huh? I know that don't sound spiritual, but we know the difference when our appetite is right. Because when your appetite's right, you consume. It's not a passive thing. It's an active, aggressive thing. It means if there's a biscuit laying on the table, you don't sit back and glare and stare at the biscuit and think, if the biscuit comes to me, I will eat it. No, when you got an appetite, you will get out of bed. You will make your way to the biscuit and you will consume it. If it doesn't have butter, you will eat it. If it doesn't have a lot of salt, you will eat it. How do you know? Because the Bible tells us that whenever a fool man, I've written it down, but many of you understand. He says a fool man, he's loafing at a honeycomb, something that is pleasurable and nutritious to the body. But a foolish man, no pleasant thing. He doesn't like, and you couldn't satisfy him to save your life. Those are the kind of people that you could preach your guts out and they would just look at you like, what kind do you want to be? On fire, hungry, thirsty.